for all you know. And there's also a debate on whether or not you're pulling it out from the future, right? From you being in the future. So as an example, let's say you remote view an event and then it happens. Your remote viewing might not necessarily be at the actual event. It could be that you're remote viewing your own future and you see the newspaper article that you saw. So there's a debate on that. So people like Eric Wargo, who's focused on time and how it works, will tell you that you're basically just looking ahead to your own future and seeing it, and that's why feedback is important. But there are others who will tell you, no, you're actually going to that event in space and time, and that's why, I mean, like your consciousness, not you actually. That's why people have things like effects like bilocation. Now, bilocation in the grander psi area typically means that you're in two places at once. Like there's saints that have been reported like that, like Padre Pio, Teresa, I think it's Teresa of Avila, stuff like that.
Sounds familiar.
In remote viewing, bilocation just means that you're experiencing physiologically the effects of something you're looking at. So, and it can be dangerous. So if you're looking at like a fire, a forest fire, some remote viewers will start sweating, like their heart will start palpitating. They'll feel intense discomfort because they're getting a little bit too close. Because you're not just seeing this stuff in your mind, you're actually feeling it, touching it. You're feeling like impressions of where it's supposed to go.
Is that why Padre Pio was reported to have like the stigmata?
I don't know.
Was that from that?
I don't know if he was. I mean, he wouldn't have been.
Check that, Dave. Maybe I'm mixing him up with someone.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been trained in the protocol. That's the other thing that's important to note. Remote viewing is a very narrowly defined aspect of psi, right? And what you see is people are flooding the zone with, oh, I'm a remote viewer because I, scratch my dog's nutsack and, he vomits, like pebbles and I count the pebbles. And think of it as like a form of, when you're talking about psi and magic, for the instance, it's kind of roughly interchangeable.
How so?
Because what you're doing is you're influencing, I'm trying to find a way to generalize it. Aspects of either seeing or controlling reality, right?
Okay.
So Dean Radin has a book, I think it's Magic or something like that. But there's kind of three different forms. There's divination, right? There's enchantment, and then there's theurgy. So divination is something like remote viewing would be a subset of divination. Now, there are people out there who are naturally gifted psychics who claim to be remote viewing. They're not remote viewing, but they are demonstrating some aspect of clairvoyance. It's just different. So you have to be careful about.
And how do we really define that then? Because again, when I've talked with different people about remote viewing, to my dumb ass, some of it feels like it's on a spectrum, if you will.
Yes,
and you were saying, at least earlier in my defense, that it's done differently by some different people in different ways. So how do they box it and say, all right, that's something psychic, that's remote viewing?
If they don't start with a number, right? Or not a number, but like a number, like a string of 8 number digits characters, okay? And they don't know what they're and they know what they're targeting. I mean, I have to be careful with this too, because there are some instances where people know that they're looking for a missing person. So I don't want to be too doctrinal, but you can't just say, hey, I want you to remote view, this alien species that I saw at the back of the comet, right? Because you're gonna, that's basically what happened with this Heaven's Gate situation, right? Where someone was set up by someone from the original program. Anyway,
I will come back to the Heaven's Gate thing.
Yeah. So if they don't start with that, it's probably not remote viewing. And there's kind of two broad categories. There's what you would call CRV, which is coordinate remote viewing or controlled remote viewing. That's where you kind of start with the number and target. And then there's something called, and that's where you sit, in the alpha wave brain state, and you're just kind of detecting, decoding, and observing various targets. Then there's something called extended remote viewing, where you probably get a little bit closer down to theta, and it's more of a free form. You're just kind of you're kind of laying down, you're very relaxed, and you're trying to see certain things. So that's, and then I would also say if they were trained by someone from the original program, it's probably remote viewing. Okay. But if they're like, I'm like a Sicilian mystic,
Right.
from whatever, like they might actually be accurate and they might be, doing some form of divination, right? They could be throwing chicken bones and what's the I Ching, something like that.
I mean, you're outside of my pay grade now.
So that's like a Chinese form of divination, and like Philip K. Dick.
Love Philip K. Dick.
Well, here's a story. So there's another author that I've spoken to in the past who knew Philip K. Dick, because he's a an author, and the name's escaping me for right now. Tim Powers. So he wrote like the Pirates of the Caribbean, like that was, I think, based on one of his
Really?
on Stranger Tides, like that specific. Yeah.
Wow.
So Tim
That's
Powers.
a flex.
Well, I mean, anyway, he knew Philip K.
Yeah.
Dick, and he said that Philip K. Dick would routinely use the I Ching, and he would get answers that he didn't like. So whenever he got an answer he didn't like, he would literally make the I Ching like, I think it's like, if it's like a board or it's not cards, but it's some contraption. He would make it sleep outside. Oh. I mean, he's a crazy guy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. And he also attracted like really crazy. He was like into really crazy women for some reason.
They usually are in that kind of situation for sure. They can't live with us here on Earth.
But that is another method of divination that some people swear by. Right? Tarot might be something else. I don't know. I don't have any experience
like
with
the
it.
cards,
Yeah.
all that. Yeah, like trying to tap into the other side.
Astrology also would be another form of divination. So those are the kind of the
Don't
categories
tell
there.
the coffee shops in New York that shit. They know already, boy.
So that's divination, right? Then you have enchantment, right? And that's like casting spells on people and weird stuff like that you would do in ceremonial magic, witchcraft. And then there's theurgy. Theurgy is just invoking the help of an entity, right? Mm-hmm. So like prayer would be something like that. And according to Dean Radin, there are empirical effects from prayer that are indistinguishable from spells. Apparently, he's like they're the same thing.